From the East Coast to the West Coast, we are everywhere true crime is. We are asking for the public's help. We are searching in the woods. We are doing what it takes here on the Bullhorn Betty channels to find answers to the most alarming cases we have been watching on the news. I can tell you personally that I have traveled this entire country seeking these answers and bringing that content right here to you here on the Bullhorn Betty channels and Bullhorn Betty Crime Stories. We are happy with the work that we've done. We brought many answers to the public, and we have defied mainstream media in our pursuit of the truth in these cases. We will continue to work. We will continue to fight for these victims, and we will continue to tell their stories here on my channels. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty brand of channels and the Coffee Club. Thank you for your love, thank you for your support, and more importantly, thank you for allowing me to bring these victims' stories to each and every one of you, advocating for each of these victims. God bless you, God bless America, and more importantly, God bless our victims. Hey guys! Hey. So today is the 100th day that Sebastian Rogers. Yesterday was 99 days, and the reason why I'm saying this is because people have been miscalculating. So I went to the date calculator, calculated from date to date. Sorry, you can't see it. But as of today, unfortunately, 100 full days have lapsed since Sebastian disappeared. And I wanted to come here and just go over some of the information. Sebastian Rogers is a 15-year-old autistic boy that disappeared from his home in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and has not been seen again. We've had a lot of information related to the case that was incorrect. We've had a lot of information that was incorrect that was given to us by the parents, Katie Proudfoot and Christopher Proudfoot, most notably at day 8 when they did their first interview with local media in their community. They stated that they had all been cleared and all passed a lie detector test. So these were lies that were perpetrated upon the public literally at day 1. They have said that they've been cooperating, and that is true. According to law enforcement, they have been cooperating. Every time law enforcement calls them, they respond. So they have been very cooperative with law enforcement. Again, every time law enforcement calls. That's a very key detail. Before we get started, I wanted to give a huge shout out. We've got a very long-winded email that we're going to go over. It's 2 parts. I don't know. It's from one of my subscribers. I love her dearly. I don't agree 100% with her theory, but it's her theory. It's her theory, and it might be somebody else's theory in my audience, so I thought I would share it with you. But before I do, we had another audience member that sent me a little, mailed me a little note of words of encouragement and stuff. So I wanted to read it. I'm not going to read the private information on here, but I did want to read it. It says, "I love listening to you and your no BS attitude. You keep being true to yourself." So, okay, and then it says, "So you sound and act like most of my family and friends. I do consider you a friend. God bless and thank you for what you do for the families and victims." And then love, Cindy. So I just thought that was really sweet. I wanted to read that. I hadn't had an opportunity. I've had this sitting on my dining table for about a week. That's just how busy I have truly been. I've been just absolutely slammed. This case is forever ever turning and changing, and it's just been hard. And I know it's been frustrating for a lot of people here on social media, especially like ones that have been out there searching, like Terry Lynn. Terry Lynn hasn't stopped searching. Every day she's out there searching for this boy, and it's a labor of love, because I can tell you The social media, people on here, when you're doing something good and they're sitting at home doing nothing good and they have some things wrong with them, they start being nasty to you. So Terry Lynn, even though she's doing such an amazing thing and doing something that nobody else is really doing, people have been nasty to her about being out there looking for a boy. I think it's problematic for me. I really do. So we have a Justice for Sebastian Rogers Facebook group. We were actually, I was advertising a different group because it was a larger group. It had a lot of information, but that group turned very hostile toward Seth because they were associated with people, and the admins of there were working directly with Seth Rogers, and Seth decided to take his move. He didn't want to work with them anymore. There was something going on behind the scenes that made him feel ultra uncomfortable. And so we've been building this channel here. We also have Find Sebastian Rogers. The Find Sebastian Rogers is powered by an admin that Seth is working with. So we have the Find Sebastian. Those are the two that I'm at this point going to recommend because I trust our work. I trust what we do on our channel, which is the Justice for Sebastian Rogers. And I trust the Find Sebastian Rogers Facebook group because that is being administered by the Rogers family and not some yahoos with hurt feelings that don't care about spreading around misinformation, which is what many of us tried to stop. I mean, that's why we're here. We try to educate our people. So this right here, I'm going to try to find this again. Okay, here it is. And I wanted to read it to you because I thought it was interesting, and then we'll get on to Misty's email. The clues are under our nose. Sebastian left clues. Victims normally normally does by nature, like just naturally. Self-assured people also make mistakes. Even if they think they are as perfect and self-assured as Mr. and Mrs. P, the walls are closing in, and I feel we are going to have a breakthrough soon. I pray that we do. Ellie knows exactly what and who is guilty. They just don't have enough manpower. I think they are just waiting for his remains to be found. I still believe this is premeditated and there are 3 people involved. I think they must start listening to the mediums. They have helped solve many cases. Team Sebastian. Well, there's a few things. While I don't ever want to dog the mediums or anything like that, law enforcement very rarely works with them. I think it's because of the stigma, how, people don't understand it. So I'm not sure. I hear all these people saying that mediums have solved cases and have solved all these cases, but I never hear like news, like in the media, on the news, like news organizations or anybody that has said, I mean, there was back in the 90s a lady that worked with law enforcement. It was one of the, I can't remember her name, but she had blonde hair. She was shorter, but she was apparently recommended by, if you were going to use a medium and be in law enforcement, this person was recommended, and it was the late 90s and early 2000s, but I can't remember what her name was. And so I don't know. I like to be, I'm stickler for details, and it was just that one sentence that I read out loud that I just wanted to clarify on. I don't know. I don't know about mediums. I don't work with them. I've never worked with them. I've never had my reading. I've never had any type of reading. I don't know what they do. The only person that I've ever spoke with when I did a map, and I did do a map for Reverend Dawn Sephoria, I think is what her name, Sylvia Brown. Thank you. Yes, it was Sylvia Brown. I remember the name. Sylvia Brown. You got it. That's the one. Yep. She was the one that was really highly recommended back in my day, when I was growing up, because law enforcement has a stigma. They for whatever reason, even when I was out there with Summer Wells, that's what made me realize it. As soon as I said, I'm following the map from Reverend Doc, they kind of looked at me like I had 8 heads. They didn't believe me. They kind of blew me off. So if you are doing anything for mediums and you want law enforcement to take you seriously, unfortunately, I'm sorry, and it's not to be disrespectful, It's the truth. Don't let them know that you're there because of a medium. Just give them the information. They'll take you more seriously. I made the fatal mistake of, telling them that, and they just, hey, Emma, good morning, love bug. They just blew me off. I won't lie. So it's I can't imagine if you are a good medium and I can't imagine how you must be treated by law enforcement, because they're not taking you seriously. Even if you have great information, they don't take it seriously, which, what do you do? And again, I the only reason why I know that is because personally I've done it. And I did find something. Law enforcement wouldn't even check it out. They didn't even bring dogs out or nothing. And it looked like a grave, and it had a big old rock right in the middle of it. It freaked me out. And it was in an area that she had searched or circled. And I was there, and I was just walking around, and I'm like, I'm live. And I mean, the hair on the back of my neck stood up, but no, they didn't do anything. And, I didn't want to call law enforcement, and I wasn't going to, because I was scared they were going to look at me like I had 8 heads. And so everybody was talking to me. They're like, yeah, we really, it freaked us all out. So we decided to go ahead and call law enforcement. And of course they looked at me like 8 heads, but you know what? At least it's documented. What else do you do? So it's just FYI, I just thought I'd throw that out there to you. We also had Nick Barris give an update. It seems like he's getting a little irritable with some of the social media. Social media has just been very toxic here lately, and it's our responsibility as creators and audience members to literally, stop this. We ourselves have control. And I feel like there's been a lot of people that have beat up Nick Barris because his tune has changed with social media. I've noticed it. And usually when people get a bad taste in their mouth, it's because they're usually being treated like crap by people. I am so sick and tired of people thinking that because you're anonymous or something that you have a right to treat somebody like crap. First of all, that affects your day too. It doesn't just affect that person. When you're angry, you feel that anger and hold that anger all day long. And you're around people all day long, passing that nonsense off to them. I would hope that people at this point stop being so nasty and start asking questions instead of being accusatory. Like, people will be I've seen them. These are people that are just trying to throw out opinions, perspective, and people just come in there and are so freaking nasty to them instead of debating the issues or explaining why they think opposite of what they. I mean, I read stuff on here that doesn't bode with what I think. But it might bode with somebody else's theory or thought process. Nobody knows what happened here. And I'm the first one to acknowledge that we don't know what happened. But what I can acknowledge is the story that's being said doesn't logically make sense. And therefore, it's red flags. That is a clue. And that is evidence. Okay? It's evidence of something. Okay? No, we do not have Katie. We do not have Katie on video, doing something to her son. But by process of elimination and problem-solving techniques that we were taught when we were younger, allow us to think for ourselves and say, okay, well, he was in the house with his mother. There's no proof he left. Mom did not see him walk out the door. And the story that the mom is trying to make us believe doesn't make sense. When we put it pen to paper, it sounds good when it's coming out of your mouth, but when you apply it to all the details of the case, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. And that's where I kind of am with this. None of this stuff really is making a whole lot of sense. Mom and stepdad aren't being truthful. They've been caught in many lies. And people say, well, Chris said this on this. And it's like, this is my problem with people that lie and why it's so detrimental. When people lie, they forget their lie. But when people lie, they're willing to lie again. So if they're lying about this, they got to lie about that later down the road. They're losing track of all their lies. And when they get comfortable on these live streams, they're letting information out that is true. For example, Katie stated that she was on the phone with Chris, which I believe they were on the phone, but this whole sleeping thing, not happening. There was something else going on. We're going to get to that in a second. But during that sleep episode, Chris and her, she's saying that she's sleeping on the couch, she's studying and talking to Chris. But here's the kicker. They said they put the dogs in the cage and she went to bed as normal. That's what was said. Again, another lie. Because later, about a month or 45 days after that statement was made, Chris is relaxed on another a YouTube channel that he feels comfortable on, and he lets his hair kind of hang out, and he enjoys his time there because they're Chris and Katie Proudfoot friendly. And so he accidentally lets certain things out when he's on there. And one of the things was he forgot that they've been telling us all this time the dogs went in the cage because that's how they always sleep. And then lo and behold, Chris pops out of his mouth, oh crap, the dogs sleep with Katie in the bed when I'm not there. Well, you weren't there. So they would have slept in the bed with her. Why were they in the cage when they weren't supposed to be? So a lot of these things don't make sense. All right, guys. So before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and get over to my emails. I have a long-winded email I need to get through, but it's interesting. And it's a theory from one of my audience members. I was supposed to read it yesterday, but things were going on where I wasn't able to read yesterday. And let me find it. Where are you? There you are. And again, work with me because I know that people like in the mornings don't. But I looked at some of the stuff you guys have here in the mornings. I gotta say, I understand why people don't. I don't like it. I think it's all just sales. Sales. Everybody's live that's selling something. I've got a question concerning a Kathy Bauer socks. I got a theory that just be how these folks pull this crime off. There's going to be some misspelling, so work with me. I'm reading this, and I'm going to try to make it make sense for you guys. Maybe Katie and Kathy plus one other person carried out the plan together. This is not the first time. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of people thinking there's 3 people here. Possibly Chris, aunt or his cousin that supposedly was with them that day. Sorry, I don't remember all 3 of the females' names. I want to say Melissa. Yeah, there's Aunt Melissa, there's Dara, and then there's apparently a younger female cousin. So here's the theory. She says she hopes she types it so it makes sense to me. My theory, is it possible that before Katie and Sebastian left the Texas Roadhouse, she slipped him some sleep medication? They had left the Texas Roadhouse, and on their way home, Katie stopped somewhere remote, no cameras, and met up with Kathy, aunt and cousin. Katie and Sebastian got into Kathy's vehicle. The aunt and cousin took off in Katie's vehicle, went somewhere to wait. Meanwhile, Kathy sat in the back, perhaps hiding from the cameras when they were going to come. It sounds like this theory is a premeditated one. And that's probably why it's lost, because Misty has a premeditation. So this what I'd call premeditation theory. Katie jumped into jumped in the driver's seat and drove to the house. Once they got home, Katie gave him some more sleep meds. Then she had Sebastian take out the trash, or Katie or Kathy dress up and appear to be Sebastian to take out the trash. And then they went over the plan once again. They may have unalived Sebastian then, or waited longer for the sleep medicine to take full effect, while waiting for the time that either Katie called Chris, or waiting for Chris to call Katie, that their cue to start and pull their plan into action while the phone was on with K and K. I think C and K. Or maybe she's meaning Kathy and Katie. I don't know. Whatever with Sebastian, and then wrapped him up. I'm got to be careful here on TikTok with what I can say. So let me just read through here and make sure there's nothing in here too bad. Okay, there's not. Okay, I can say all this. Okay, then they went back to the house and made sure everything was the way it was supposed to be, and the cops showed up. Perhaps they did actually take a nap and set an alarm for whenever they planned for the phone call with Chris or Katie in the end, and then that's when Katie got into the back seat of her own car and vehicle and waited for Katie to do her going into Sebastian's room, waking him up and find him not in bed or his room, and do call the search to the house. And then she, and puts in parentheses, not sure if she called for Chris first or, well, we know she called Chris first before she went looking in the neighborhood and school. He called the sheriff's office. Katie left and drove to meet whoever the third person with her or either. And a lot of people have absolutely stated that they believe that there was a swap in the car. My premeditated theory is the lowest on the list for me personally. But the way she's explained it is much different than my theory of premeditation. And they're bringing Kathy Bowersox into it as potentially the third person. I think Kathy Bowersox is involved in part, but for whatever reason, I feel like Terry, because Terry's a man, would be more inclined to help than Kathy, but I don't know. I don't know. This is all theory based anyway. So that's part one. She sent me a part two, and this one is not as long. So we'll just go ahead and read this. And she just says, she just thought of something else. Wait, what if we apply my theory all the way up until I say they unalived Sebastian? And said that's the night during the phone call that they all came up with the plan. They told Sebastian he was going to go stay with Gma, Kathy, and blah. She took Sebastian off with her that morning, and Katie reported him missing. Katie switched back to her vehicle and went home. While Katie left Sebastian in her car, Kathy and whoever to take care of him those days while waiting for Chris to be able to get away. Katie, the house, Seth, L.E., to carry out phase 2 of their plan. Sebastian was alive and with Katie and her hubby. This is why they bought all those snacks until the day Chris left to go to get his camper. That is when Chris unalived Sebastian and disposed of him. Did Chris have those marks on his arms the day Sebastian was reported missing? So that is a good. And then there's another little blurb down here that said, did anyone ever question Chris on when he got those marks on his arm? The question is no, I have not heard it yet. If anybody else hears it, please let me know. I wonder if he got, was it during one of these weekends? He said he hadn't been home for various weekends. But I want to know if he had the marks before or after the trip back. Me too. And I think we brought that up yesterday as well, as when those marks were actually put on his arm. Thank you, Misty. That was really good. It was really thought provoking. Again, just not my theory. The premeditation, I think I could apply some of her stuff into mine because I didn't even think about some of the stuff. Like the car switching. A lot of people think Kathy and Katie switch cars for some reason. And I think they think that because they're trying to explain why a vehicle matching Kathy's vehicle. I don't think Kathy and Katie's vehicles are identical. I think their shades, they look like the exact vehicle, but I think their shades of their vehicle are different, slightly different. I think they're noticeably different when they're together. I could be fully wrong, but when I looked at Kathy Bowersox's vehicle, it looked like it was a little more gray. Oh, excuse me. Woo! I think it was a little more gray than Katie's like powder baby blue on her car. I don't know. I've got to look at them. Thank you, Emma. I got to look at them together. But I think that they are the same car, but I think they're slightly different shades. So I really don't know. I really don't know. People say they both drive light blue cars. That's what I've been hearing. But I looked at the vehicle because another content creator was in the neighborhood when this all happened. And apparently Kathy decided to pull out of the driveway and try to run them down and find out who they were in the cars. So this person captured her vehicle. Actually, I think he captured her license plate too. We might actually be able to find out with 100% certainty, because I think he got her license plate, and I think we got Katie's license plate too. But if I recall correctly, that car, that's how I was able to see it, because it was that video. And I almost think that their car was had a little bit of the wheels are different too, Nikki says. But I think the cars are slightly different in color. One has more gray hues in it, and one has more light blue hues in it. possibly. You know, and what I hate about these paint jobs now is a lot of them are, you know, they have the metallic in them. So if you're, and it's not like a thing, it's just normal paint job. When you have metallic in it, certain sides, you get certain little different colors of the colors. So, you know, depending on how it looks from different angles with the metallic in it. Really? That's why I believe Kathy Bowersox is involved. Yeah, there's something. And not only that, but what made me feel like they must have some information is because of they left so close to when Sebastian disappeared. You know, like it was like one of those things like, oh crap, things are about to hit the fans. We need to get out of here. This is going to start affecting us. We need to hit the road. You know, I think that's why they went away for 2 weeks. I think they just needed to get away. I don't think they wanted to deal with law enforcement. I don't think they wanted to deal with media. I don't think they wanted to deal with anybody. The Bowersox are like, oh crap, the crap's about to hit the fan. We find something to do, you know? Time to go to work, right? That's what they said to go to Alaska, that it was Terry Bowersox's job. He had to go up there for work-related stuff. So Kathy and Terry both ran away first. Well, Chris ran away first. Chris is the one that ran away to go get the camper. He was gone for 17 hours. So that was a telltale problem. In the Summer Wells case, that person that ran away was Candace Hare, which we call Grandis. Grandis is Candace Bly's mom and the grandmother that lived there. She's a mean, nasty, woman. She's the shot caller, if you will. The shot caller of the hill. I don't know what to call her. She seems mean. But she was the one that disappeared. Nobody else. It was mean old grandma that took off and went states away. In this case, Chris was the first one to leave. But then after that, it was the grandparents. So, I was laughing. Are you laughing at me for calling her the shot caller? The snot caller? Yeah. So, and it all, you know what? Summer's never been found. And I'm sorry. I don't trust, Emma, you've watched me cover that case for a really long time. I don't trust Grandis. Do I think that lady is dirty enough to take a child unalive with her? I do. I absolutely do. And I looked in the back of her vehicle and all those totes that were back there and all those boxes that were back there. Remember that? When they were coming back, we saw those boxes. They're like, oh, those are just totes of crafts. Remember that? I keep wondering how many of those totes was she driving back to Illinois or Wisconsin with. I think that's why Summer's never been found. I think our key is Grandis. She's the only one that left. Just like Sebastian hasn't been found, and I think our key with where Sebastian's location is the person that left, Chris Proudfoot. I absolutely believe it. So now, getting back to kind of Nick Barris. Nick Barris, I do have respect for Nick Barris. I have my opinions, like there was a time when I was getting like a little, stick up my butt. And I'm like, why is Nick like this public information officer for the Sumner County Sheriff? Like he's becoming the mouthpiece. And I had to kind of walk that back. I mean, I do believe it in part, but not in such a disrespectful light, I do believe he has been taking. But on all fairness, Sumner County needs a person, a public information officer, And I think Nick Barris is kind of, in all fairness, stepping into that position out of need, if you will. I'm complaining we need a public information officer. They're not giving us a public information officer, and Nick Barris is basically being the public information officer. He's the one that's kind of informing the public of what law enforcement is allowing them to release. That's a public information officer. So, in all fairness, he is kind of taking, so I kind of came off of him because as snarky as I'm kind of upset about, why he's not being pushy. I'd rather have a good contact with law enforcement and has some type of public relations than none at all. It just sucks that it has to come from their local news. It should be coming from their office and their office alone, in my opinion. But we'll take whatever we can. And I hope people out here on the streets of YouTube and social media, TikTok and abroad, are actually being nice to these people. I can tell you it's hard doing this job. I know it's very easy for you guys to be ultra critical of everything that's being done, and I'm sure you guys could do it 1,000 times better. And my recommendation to the people that can do it 1,000 times better than the rest of us, go build your channel. Go build your channel and do it better. Because at the end of the day, until you have experienced what we experience, you don't know what kind of challenges we're dealing with. And it's a lot easier sitting on the sidelines criticizing than actually doing the work and putting your neck out there. So I always recommend that, and if you do have a powerful voice, why wouldn't you have your own platform for your own opinion to be broadened, or your avocation for these cases? I will always recommend people, if you feel so moved, to build a channel, but please do it out of a place of love, not hate. There's enough hate out here. We cover hate every day, and it saddens our hearts and our souls. So why would we be a part of the hate? I don't want to be a part of it. I see it every day in my job. I got to cover cases like Sebastian Rogers, and quite frankly, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. He deserved a heck of a lot better than he got. Point blank. He deserves more from his mom and stepfather, And I've been complaining. Some people have been raising, why isn't there any reward funds raised? I've been saying that myself. These people here live an amazing lifestyle. Okay? An amazing lifestyle. They have over a $700,000 home. He drives a 2021. I was just in it because I've been getting my car repaired. I was just at Cox Chevrolet. I just went to their used car lot, and I can tell you, his truck is a very, very, very expensive truck. Okay? And she's got a 2017 Infiniti. Again, a very expensive vehicle. So they've never paid for anything. They've had signs donated to them. They've had billboards donated to them. Hell, they even had sponsorships from corporations raising $3,500. But these two people here have not spent $1 of their own money to help look for their son. Not $1. They have not tried to collect any money from people to help aid in finding their son. What these people have done is they haven't helped financially, they haven't helped physically, they haven't even offered to send flyers to people to post. They've done zero to aid in finding this boy. Zero. Because they've got money, they've got this fifth wheel, which is not cheap. They've got that truck, which is not cheap. They've got that Infiniti, which is not cheap. They have that house, which is not cheap. And they can't even pony up $5,000 for their missing child. They can't even pony up $500 for their missing child. They can't even pony up $20 blessed dollars for their own child. I don't know. Oh, yeah. They got the budget for a new motorcycle. Sheila. If they don't have the budget for it now, believe me, I think they're saving the money to get that bike. It seemed like she was pretty happy on that bike. I have a funny feeling she's going to be an owner of a new bike soon. No, they got money for that. That was budgeted. That was budgeted. They were able to get rid of a kid, and all of a sudden they have, a little bit of money left over, So I guess she's going to replace it, and she's going to want to hang out with somebody, right? So I guess she's decided to buy a motorcycle instead. I guess it'll go to sleep on time. Who knows? It is sad. It's sad. It's unnecessary. Sebastian deserves better. He deserved better. He deserved better. I can't imagine. This is the problem I have, is that we have so many families that are divorced in our country. And there are so many blended families. And there are so many parents that have to trust their child in the hands of somebody that they don't know. Maybe the other person knows. But love is blind, right? Love is blind. We overlook things due to love. We believe our heart. We believe that this couldn't happen to us. But I want to put something out there, and I've kind of started planting this seed a little while ago, and I want to throw it back out there to you. And I've seen this before, and I don't know if this is the case. But see, it was Chris that approached Seth for Sebastian to be out of the house. Did Chris start seeing behaviors of Katie? Is it possible that, believe it or not, Chris was trying to get this boy out of the house before something happened? Maybe he started seeing Katie being more and more resentful to her son. Maybe he started seeing her not treat her son right. Maybe he realized his wife was, at their wits' end, and for the safety of Sebastian. For the safety of Sebastian. Maybe Chris approached Seth to say, hey, we're having marital problems. I need you to take Seth out. I need you to take Sebastian out of the house and take him full time. We don't know why Chris, we assume why Chris approached him to do that. But maybe we're not looking at a kinder Chris, or somebody that was more concerned about Sebastian than we think. Because I find it awfully suspect that he is approaching Seth to take Sebastian, and Sebastian is left alone with his mother and disappears. We have to look at that. We can't ignore that. We're assuming that Chris just wanted his life back, but what if Chris started seeing some major issues with his wife and thought it was best for Sebastian to be with his father? What if this abuse that we're hearing people try to point at Chris, what if it's from Katie? What if it's Katie? I don't know. I mean, he did bust his butt. We don't know what the Department of Children Family Services are. Chris could have been just as mean to him as possible, but I did want to put an alternative theory out there as a possibility of why Chris would have been approaching Seth for Sebastian. I don't know if it holds water, but we're looking only at one angle of that, and maybe we need to look at a different angle of that and see what that might show us. The only reason CP wanted Seth to take Sebastian is to get his daughter, and that's what we believe. It is what we believe. And I do think that holds the most weight. But with Katie being alone with her son and her son disappearing, I have to look at, is there any other possibility or underlying reason that he could have wanted Sebastian out of that house? Because I have heard of people, doing things, not wanting to expose the situation, but letting people know, like, you need to take this child. I've seen where a father has removed. I mean, there's a lady that just, it was just recently, I can't remember where it was, whether it was in Ohio or Pennsylvania. Her husband works the night shift. And so he just happened to come in that night. He took a shower and went to bed. It was laying in bed. And then all of a sudden his wife comes in there and wakes him up and tells him that she just unalived their son. And he had been very careful with his son because he knew his wife had mental illness. And he had made sure that she was taking the medication. She made sure that, she had people calling her during the day and coming by and making sure everything was fine. And she waited until he was asleep and went in there and woke him up. And she was trying to tell him not to call law enforcement. And he immediately called law enforcement and told him exactly what his wife did. And he went in there to check on his son, and his son was gone. and I can't even imagine. And one of his statements was, we knew that she was mentally ill. We knew she had these things. We were very cautious and very careful. They had no idea she would do this. But she apparently stopped taking her medication, and she was schizophrenic. Katie she is a heavy drinker. I believe Seth. I believe there was something, everybody had kind of believed that they were heavy drinkers at the beginning. And I think that it was just solidified. I think we can definitely say, but the question is, was she drinking that night? Could she have been intoxicated that night? Could she have blacked out and not even known what she did? But I'd have to say probably not, because she was on the phone with Chris for 3 hours. So something happened right there at 9:43. I'm gonna bet money on it. I'm gonna bet money on it. And she needs us to believe she went to bed at midnight when they got off the phone, because she has no alibi from midnight to. That's why it is absolutely 100% important for us to know why she was in bed and why she had to be asleep at midnight. She's got no alibi. She got no alibi. And she's got no one that can corroborate her alibi, because the only other person in the house is missing. Interesting. Just saying. Interesting. And Nick Barris calling social... Well, I don't take offense to it, because I don't consider myself an armchair detective, but I definitely believe there are some armchair detectives here. We go through theories. Some things are going to be... I do a lot of theory-based stuff here, because I know that law enforcement watches our certain social media accounts. And so when we find stuff, this is how I tell them about the stuff I find. Now, if I find something that I can't bring here, I send that over to them directly with a phone call. So, what's the update with the beautiful boy? Well, Nick Barris, we're at 100 days. Today's 100 full days that he's been missing. I did the calculations myself this morning on a date-to-date calculator. And so today is truly the 100th day that he's been missing for a full 100 days, and my heart is breaking. There are no organized searches. We have people out there searching like Terry Lynn, but we don't really have organized searches. I would love to organize a search, and I might be able to. We'll figure out what's going on this week. I don't know. But law enforcement is saying that this case is still active. They're saying that this is not a cold case. They're saying that leads and sightings and stuff like that have slowed down. But they're nowhere closer to solving this case, is basically what they're saying. So... Jenny Jen, no, there's not really a whole lot of help. Everything's been paid for I'm just trying to get it fit, just running. I decided to do a Hail Mary repair on it, just to see if if we finally got the culprit. So we'll see, I'll find out today or tomorrow. It's definitely been it's been a process. This is what I would suggest to everybody is, now that I understand, and I'm going to tell this to everybody here, general practitioner, like your normal run-of-the-mill mechanics, they have equipment, okay? And they have good equipment. I'm sure they have some pretty good diagnostic equipment. Some of this diagnostic equipment that they have out today are hundreds of thousands of dollars. One piece of equipment might be $100,000. As you can imagine, these smaller shops can't afford that type of equipment, okay? They can afford decent equipment, and they can afford the proper diagnostic equipment. But when you start having problems with vehicles, you need to go find diagnose it with in my opinion, with the manufacturer. So I decided it was time for me to take the car up to Cox Chevrolet and do a diagnostic. They have top of the line machines that I don't think any of, unless they're a dealership, have. So I don't think there's a lot of mechanical shops, smaller mechanical shops, that have the equipment that Cox did. So I paid the money to have the full diagnostic of this, diagnosis of my vehicle. And they did identify two critical things. One was a shocker. If you guys remember when I got broke down on the side of the road in Live Oak, the tow truck, I had the tow truck. I picked out a mechanical shop to have the car taken to. And when I got in the tow truck car, he asked me, did I have a mechanic? I said, yes, but I don't know anybody. And he basically took my car to his shop, not the shop that I had selected on AAA, which from my understanding is a big no-no. So that's one thing. He didn't provide me a written estimate, and he changed out my fuel pump, so I had no idea, the high-pressure fuel pump. So I ended up spending there close to $700 or $800 for a high-pressure fuel pump to be put into my car. Didn't know the guy, stuck in a bad situation, and the fuel pump was put in. Well, apparently he used an aftermarket fuel pump for my car, unbeknownst to me. And that aftermarket fuel pump was dumping gas into my oil. So the high pressure fuel pump that I just paid all this money for has to be replaced again. And I tried to reach out to the mechanic in Live Oak, and of course he's ghosted me. So he's not wanting to work with me. And that is a bad thing to do to Bullhorn Betty, because what I'm going to end up doing is calling AAA, and you're no longer going to have a AAA contract because you violated the rules of that contract by taking my car to your shop and not the shop I selected. You violated Florida statutes by failing to provide me a written estimate, and you failed to provide me a paid in full receipt. So he's probably going to be very upset. And I'm going to call him again today, and when I get his voicemail, I'm going to lay it out to him just like that, and hope that he will call me and try to work it out. Either way, we're replacing the high-pressure fuel pump again. I haven't even driven the car 100 miles on the new pump, just to let you know where I'm at. So nobody in their right mind would have ever thought a brand new part would cause such problems. So that's got to be replaced, and then it sounds like I've got a front and back camshaft solenoids that need to be replaced in the car, and hopefully those two problems will resolve the issue. The problem is Cox Chevrolet gave me a $3,600 bill for all of that, after I just paid close to $4,000 to date on the car. So as you can imagine, I about had a heart attack. But I wasn't, Cox, I would never, unless it was something that that was major. I don't think I would ever, like when I bought my car, when I bought my Malibu there, and I bought it, I think it was a year old, but I think it was just the car that they had on the lot that they let people ride in, because it had low miles. I think like 8,000 miles on it. Something ridiculous. It was obviously not a leasing car because of the low miles it had on it, but it could have been. Anyways, I got it. Well, it had all types of warranties on it. It had 2 years maintenance free. I just ran up there, and so I never had a problem. Well, there was one issue that was with my car where my radiator was dumping water into my engine. And I don't know how I don't know how it was getting in there, but there was some problems with my car. It was under warranty. I had no problem letting Cox Chevrolet fix my car. No, not on my car, not on the car I've got now. Yeah, on the part. But I have no idea where he got the part. I got no idea what part it is. I have no idea how to do any type of warranty. He never gave me my warranty paperwork. He never gave me my receipt paperwork. He never gave me my written estimate paperwork. He never gave me anything. So I don't know what I got. I was in a jam. I just needed my car back. He needed to fix it. I thought it was fixed. And when he gave it back to me, it wasn't fixed. And so I came home. And it had been at the shop, being worked on. And like I told the shop and the shop owner, this is a brand new pump. Nobody would think a brand new pump would be literally leaking oil or leaking gas into my oil. So I've got to get obviously the oil needs to be changed, the new pump needs to be replaced, and the solenoids need to be added. But I think, we did a full diagnostic on the car, and that's what came back. And so if we hit those things and get those things taken care of, I think the car should be fine. But I don't think we would have ever thought that the brand new pump was causing these problems. So there's that. So we're going to get a factory part put back in the car. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a stickler for factory parts in repair shops. If they want to use an aftermarket part, I'm fine with it. To be honest with you, I'm fine with aftermarket parts. They're cheaper. They're usually durable. I've never had problems with aftermarket parts, but over the years, if I'm doing the work, personally doing the work myself and saving all the labor costs, I use factory parts, because I took the whole front end of my ex-husband's Dodge apart, and I replaced, because we didn't know what kind of vehicle we were getting. His was significantly older. It was a newer vehicle. It was a 2011 Dodge Ram, but it had a lot more miles on it. And the last thing it was having radiator problems, and so I had to take the front end off to get to the radiator. And since we were already in there doing the radiator, the stuff was already exposed. So I changed out the thermostat, the water pump. I don't think, did we change out the alternator? I might even have changed out the alternator, put a new serpentine belt on it. But all the stuff that I could get there, the starter, the thermostat, the water pump, anything that was exposed to me that I could change out with the radiator when I had to do the work for the radiator, I changed it all out, So that, but his car was a lot easier. And not only that, I had muscle. My ex-husband was here. He could hand me stuff. He could help me. If I needed something, like a bolt broke, he could break it. I mean, with me working on my own car, I got no muscle. I got no muscle. I can work on the car. I just got no muscle. And with my car and the issues that were going on with my car, there's no way I would have been able to diagnose all this. I wouldn't have been able to do this work myself. There's just no way. So I didn't. Some of it I probably could have, but at that point, it's in the shop. They're doing this. They might as well do that, So that's where that came from. But I think I'm hoping we'll just keep me in your prayers. That's all I can say is just keep me in your prayers. I'm hoping for good news today. It's just an unfortunate circumstance, but me and a couple of the mechanics have just been working through it, and just working through it until we get it right. I feel like no, we had a lot of problems. There was a lot of problems with that car. I don't know what happened, but there was just some significant problems going on with it. I don't know. I think they were problems that were being ignored. I think because I noticed that, for example, when I cranked up the car, I noticed that it had like a chainy sound. I guess I didn't know what it sounded like. It sounded like clinking is what it sounded like when and come to find out it was my timing chain. So there were a lot of things that I was noticing. I didn't quite peg it as, being an engine problem or a major problem. I probably should have. The car shouldn't make noise. But I figured it's the car starting, it's driving, it's not interfering with my life. I'll just deal with it, right? Well, I think that when we start replacing some stuff, I think that those old parts just finally gave out. I think because I was experiencing some things, but I think I was just experiencing them so long, I just ignored them. And I know there were a few things that I did ignore that weren't serious to me, but I guess they should have been, like that noise at the beginning when we cranked the car. Like there's some clicking in my AC, but I know exactly what that is. Like I know exactly what it is, and I know exactly how to fix it. And I don't need a mechanic to do it. I just need 2 hours of my time and take my door off, and I'm fine. It gets to the air conditioning vent. And there's a little thing that just turns the vents like this, and it's either stripped out or a piece of plastic that fell from the top got into that. It might have stripped it out, but I wanted to check it out. But that's the only thing. So I know exactly what's wrong with that. But with this one, we had a chug, and so originally the chug, everything seemed like it was pumping right, but I don't know. I'm not a mechanic. I don't know what they were seeing on the diagnostics. All I know is that we were just fixing what was showing up, and every time we'd fix it, it seemed like something else would show up. So I'm like, this is getting crazy. Let me take it up here. We took it up there. We got a diagnosis. It's back. We're getting it fixed. We'll see how it goes. Timing chains are very expensive. Yes, this is what I've had done to the car so far for everybody to know, because apparently people like to know my personal private business. So for them, let me just go ahead so they can do their own Google research instead of doing underhand dirty crap, like intruding into my private life. So I've had, and the person knows who I'm talking to when I say that, and I'm not going to bring it up here because it's just going to cause more problems than it's worth. I've had my timing chain replaced. Well, first I've had the catalytic converter replaced, not a cheap job. I've had my high pressure fuel pump replaced, not a cheap job. I've had my throttle body replaced. I've had my timing chain replaced. And now I have to have my high pressure fuel pump replaced again. And I have to have solenoids added. So now I've got a new timing chain, new throttle body, 2 new pumps in my car, but for one spot. The timing chain, the catalytic converter, people can look those prices up themselves and see how much cost is in this car. And quite frankly, the work I had done, that $4,000 is a good deal for all the work that I had done. It's not like I was being robbed blind for these repairs. These repairs are very expensive repairs. And each one of them are about $1,000 a piece, except the throttle body. Well, this is what happened, Everlasting, and you weren't here for that. What had happened is this was just supposed to be a maintenance thing. I was going in there for a $1,300 repair. They were repairing, I just wanted the lights off my dashboard. So I had a the charge was going to be $600 and something dollars. Okay, $690 was what I originally went in there for. And it was to rebuild my ABS module because it was fried, and my ABS light on my dashboard was up. So I took it in there, but when I was coming back from Tennessee, it started getting a chug. So when I dropped it off for the repair that I had scheduled, the module, I told him about the chug. So he replaces the catalytic converter because that apparently is what was showing up. Well, it wasn't the catalytic converter, it was the pump. And so the pump, when I ended up getting the car back, it seemed like it was riding fine. It had a little something going on with it, but he told me that my computer needs to be replaced in the car. No big deal. So I drive it, and I'm almost out of Florida, and my car just stopped. So it was only a $1,300 job that snowballed into $4,000 because I ended up getting stuck in Live Oak, had to fix the car for, that money to come back to Florida, and then it had to go back there, and then I had all this extra work that needed to be done to the car because the timing was off, this was all off, everything was just and I think it was because the computer needed to be changed. I think the computer had adjusted to all these weird things going on in my car, and when it needed a new computer, nothing was adjusting right. So we had to fix all of that. And so it's just been one thing after another. Had I known that this was going to be after the $1,000 if I knew that it would have blown up into this, I would have just drove that car into the ground until it stopped running again. And I would have just started putting money toward a new car. I would have never put this money into this car. But now that you get to a certain point, it's like now it's either we have to fix the car or we just blew all that money for nothing. That's where I'm at. I would have never done this. I would have, trust me, I would have had, because I buy my cars and everything free and clear. I get the cash, I go out and buy the car. I don't like finances. I don't like monthly payments. My house is paid for. My cars are paid for. Everything I own is paid for free and clear. I owe nobody nothing. I owe the IRS a little bit of something, and I owe my county taxes a little something. That's where I'm at in life. And so do I have the nicest stuff in the world? No, but I don't owe anybody anything. Okay? And that's how I like to live my life. I live within my means, and if I can't afford to buy it, I don't buy it. But I think this world is credited out. I try. I have a few small little credit cards that I use, but when it comes to me, I hate paying interest. Okay, personally, I hate paying interest. I hate somebody loaning me money and me having to pay interest and then telling me I can't pay it off quicker, or I get penalized for that. So I'll just sit here and sit pretty for a couple months and go out and buy a car. Period. That's where I'll be. But I think we'll be able to drive this car while we save money. But we definitely know that this car is, after these, we might get another year or two out of her if we're lucky. But we've definitely got to, for me personally, I've got to put money aside for a new vehicle. So that's where I budget. That's how I make the world go round in my little world. So as long as it's budgeted, I'll have it. I'd rather own than lease. Yeah, absolutely. I won't. Well, at the end of the lease, with leasing, like when you have corporations, yeah, leasing's the best. You have money and stuff like that. But for leasing, for me, for a private citizen, I don't know how much they're going to force me to pay at the end of this. Right? If I go over this, when I try, and not only that, in my lifestyle, I could never lease. I would pay through the nose when turning that back in just for the mileage alone. That's why I hate leases. Because you can't really use the car the way you want to use the car. And at the end of the lease, you have to pony up money to get out of it. Because if you went over this mileage, or you didn't go for this oil change, or you didn't do this just right, you're on the hook for that. Oh, I love freeze-dried candy. Email me, everlasting, bullhornbetty@gmail.com, bullhornbetty@gmail.com. Email me, and I'll give you my address. You can probably go to a hate channel and type in my name. They probably have a instructions and a map that gets you right to my house. So if you wanted a fun project, just saying. Thank you. I would love that. Would be nice. I'd love that. I love candy. I love candy, and I love fresh, natural candy too. That's the best. I've been trying to do sugar-free stuff, but I'm not really good at it. Aw, thank you, Wonderlust. That's sweet. That's sweet. But that's really all I have for you guys. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the car. I do know that, right now I've got everything paid for. It's just getting it fixed. It really is. I just need the car fixed. And once we get it back and I can just drive, like I've been without wheels, and it's like so scary because then if it comes back and it's driving good, I'm probably not going to want to drive it for fear I'm going to break it. I have such PTSD over this. It's not even funny. This has really, really got to me. The first month wasn't bad, but the second and third month, it's bad. It's bad. I've had to walk places and that's fine, but I spend a lot of money so I don't have to. And it kind of sucks in Florida. It's hot out there. So I'm not good at asking people for help. I do it by myself because I don't like asking people for help. And so I have to go over and knock on my neighbor's door and say, hey, can you help me? I don't like it. So that's just me and my personality and my defects, right? I like to stay in my own lane and I like everybody else to stay in theirs. Unless I absolutely need something, I never ask for help. So, anyways, guys, that's all I have. Keep doing good. And I did want to tell you guys. Before I leave. Thank you guys, because there are a lot of beautiful people that have been watching these videos and have been helping me a lot. I can personally tell you I've got oodles and oodles and oodles of emails. I wish I could turn my phone. Well, I'll turn it. It's kind of hard because I want to turn the phone around to you guys to show you how many emails I have been getting with your theories and your crystal clear interviews and your interview breakdowns and stuff like that. I want to thank you because people are doing it because it's hard for just one person to do all of the work. If we can get one person to look at this interview, each individual, and you guys take your own notes, and then if people have questions or something, they can go back to those interviews and review those sections for themselves. I think would be amazing. Then it's not like all the work's on just one person to do. And so I really appreciate that people have actually been participating in this. So I'm going to be reading this now. I've got to upload this video to YouTube, and I've got to do a premiere on it. So it's not going to be, it's going to be a couple hours, maybe 3 hours before I can get to these. But when I get to these, we'll do another live here and go over some of the information we found, because it's your work and we need to share it around. So we'll go over that a little later, probably about mid-morning, maybe around noon, depending on how my day's going out. I still have my final proofreading and one more motion to put together, and then we'll be good to go on that front. So I think everything's going to be really nice today, and I think we're going to get a lot of information. And I still got to go over some other cases too, some of the cases that we've been monitoring but haven't had an update on in a little while. We'll be rolling that out today and tomorrow as well. So I hope you guys are having an amazing hump day. Please, guys, this is what I ask of you today. Do an act of kindness in Sebastian's honor today. Today marks a full 100 days since he has been gone and on his own, out there in the wilderness, the wild, or beyond. 100 full days. 100 full days. So as an honor to him, please do an act of kindness for a perfect stranger today in his honor. Whether you let somebody in front of you, whether you buy somebody a cup of coffee that you don't know, whether you see a struggling person and you help them, do an act of kindness today, even if it goes against, like if you don't give, the bum on the corner $1, do it today. Do it today for Sebastian. In Sebastian's name, let's all do an act of kindness for a perfect stranger today in honor of Sebastian. And let's pray for his safe return home. All right, guys, God bless. Don't forget, if you have any information about these two or this boy here, you're asked to call 1-800-TBI-FINE. God bless.